Hello there.
Hi.
We're back, and we have a very special guest.
We do. Please
Am I
welcome.
supposed to say hello now?
You
Or-
can say hello.
You can
Okay,
say
okay.
hello.
I wasn't sure if you guys just wanted that opening moment for yourselves.
Lily always
Hello.
starts. Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Lily always starts with her God, my brain's not working now. Her
Her intro.
Obi-Wan Kenobi impression. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Oh, nice, nice.
It's the Lily way of doing it, but
Mhm.
it's still Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hello there.
Hey, it's your show. You can do the Lily way. This is the Lily way.
This is the one.
This is
Oh
the
my
Lily
God!
way.
I'm. Did you watch the Pedro Pascal SNL sketch?
Oh yeah, the one where he's in the bed. That's the
Yeah.
only one that I've seen. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that.
Oh my
I'm glad that I
God.
did. I feel like I've somehow done my research and my
You
homework
definitely
without
did.
knowing it.
Oh my God. Where am I?
Hi everyone. Welcome to All the Films We Judged Before. I'm Katie. That's Lily Kate, and we are joined by the incredible. You know him from everything. Yuri Lowenthal.
That just means I'm old. Um,
Hey,
No,
there's
thank you.
Nothing wrong with that. Age is a
Yeah,
beautiful
no,
thing.
no, it's better than the alternative. I no, I'm yeah, no, that I'm thrilled and I'm happy that I've gotten to do so many things that people have enjoyed. So
It is honest. So my best friend is a big JRPG fan. She plays a lot of different ones, and it's a pretty common conversation where we're talking about like she'll be playing something. She goes, "Oh hey, look who I found!" And she'll like post a screenshot of you in there.
right.
And I'm like,
I do tend to pop up.
It's comforting. I'm like, oh good, at least Yuri's in there.
I like that. That's better than annoying because
Oh,
we
God,
hear him so
never.
much. Someday it'll happen, but I'll ride it till as long as I can.
But we have to ask a very important question because a certain second game is coming,
It is.
and we were wondering if you can tell us anything about it, like anything at all.
I can only tell you one thing, and it's
Okay.
a cop out. It's gonna be awesome.
That's all I need.
Like they won't let me see. I mean, I saw that in the background, Katie, and
I feel bad for covering
and there
up
we are,
Miles.
the two Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
They
He
people
is
will
there, I
insist
promise.
people will insist that the plural of Spider-Man is Spider-Man, but it's for me it's always
Spider-Mans.
Spider-Mans.
Well, that does technically make grammatical sense because there's one Spider-Man, there's two Spider-Man.
Spider-Mans. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like even female Spider-Mans are Spider-Mans. Yeah, I don't know. It's like a I don't know. Who knows? It's still this is a developing science, but yeah. I mean, I can tell you that I can tell you that I'm amazed by the scope of it. I can tell you that I can't wait. I can tell you I can't wait for people to dive into this, and I can
Mhm.
tell you that Insomniac knows what a big deal the first one was and how
Mhm.
much so many people loved it, and they're not intending to let anyone down. It's oh man, we'll have to do a follow-up episode after the game
Oh
comes
yes,
out.
please.
You're always welcome.
I'm just so afraid. Like I don't want to Tom Holland it. Like I don't want to.
And you
Like,
don't even
I
have Mark
feel-
Ruffalo there to. Oh
Right,
wait,
right.
that's not a good pairing.
No,
I
that's
take
not
that back.
helpful.
That's
You
not
want Benedict
helpful.
Cumberbatch there. That's why.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Yes,
right.
that's true.
Which is funny because I love both of those guys. It'd be hard to not want to either Benedict Cumberbatch something or Tom Holland something.
That's very true.
But no, I live in fear of saying too much about something or even saying just enough that then people extrapolate. Like I'll do
Yeah.
interviews sometimes and then I'll read the interview and I'm like, that's not what oh, now I sound like an asshole. So
Media literacy in the 20th
yeah, that's
century.
welcome. Yeah, welcome to the medium. But yeah, I'm so excited, and I think that there's certain things at this point that people are expecting, and I can probably confirm that a lot of the stuff that you're expecting will be there. But there's so much that still people have no idea, like what's coming.
Don't even know.
It's I don't know.
When I played,
I mean that's really all I can say is I just can't wait.
I think that's fair enough. That's fair
very
enough.
good.
Yeah.
I played the first one obviously when it came out, and it is one of the. I mean, I cry a lot of things, but I full on
too.
sobbed during the end of that game.
We did it. Well, let's see if we can do it again.
I'm so open to it. It's honestly one of my favorite things to be that moved by something, because I always
Me
mean
too.
to be like,
That is why I love. It's one of many reasons I love movies. But like I'm not a like a classically religious person. I mean, I was raised Jewish, and that's culturally I feel that. But religion wise, like cinema is my church. Like I go to the movie theater to sit in the dark and be moved and cry and learn and find hope and all the things that people go to church for, I go to the movies for. So that's why I'm on this podcast today.
it's my calm place. I've shown this to Lily a couple of times. So I've got a Google Watch, and it like I got it because I wanted to track my sleep and stuff. It has I have this habit now. I look at it after I go to see a movie. It will think I'm asleep for like 2 hours, just because I think I enter a state of like nirvana.
Oh, I love that so much.
I'm just gonna put it out there now that Yuri is my new best friend. Like
Oh.
I just found my person.
Yes.
I'm,
I guess hopefully that means I get invited back on this show.
Of course.
Let's talk about movies.
always, yes. Like, come on. I was like, when you said that you go there to just be in the moment and cry, I was like, if you know the movies I cry on, like I literally can cry on anything.
Yeah. And I tell you, especially since like movies have always been the place that I've really done that most, but ever since my son was born, like almost 7 years ago, now I cry at everything. It doesn't matter what kind of movie. It doesn't matter, or even a movie. Like just everything makes me cry now. It's crazy.
Yeah, you on that one? Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let it out.
Yeah.
Just let it free.
I know.
I'm gonna do like just so you can see how much the game affected me. I'm kind of like an artist or something. I don't know.
Kind of like an artist.
Kind of.
Jesus. Just wait.
And then this I had
what?
to.
She's bonkers.
I had to.
That's amazing. Are you kidding me right now? That's so good.
And I'm really hoping that they're gonna invite you to MCM or somewhere so I can actually give it to you because I made so many.
Oh my God.
Wait, hold on.
I would,
like an
or I could just sign them and you could keep them. I mean, I don't get me wrong. They're beautiful and I would love one, but
we could do like a I can give you a print of it and then you can sign the original. That would be so nice.
Okay. I would right. It's a date. It's been so long since I've been to MCM since it was owned by somebody else. Like that was like years ago.
Yeah. New, but they already have like a new company again.
Wow. So it's shifted twice since I've oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't know. COVID and one of the worst things COVID took from us was it was so long since I was that I couldn't go to the movie theater. Because I'll watch movies at home. I've got a big TV in my office right behind this camera. And I'll sit here late at night and watch movies, but there's something about being in a movie theater, even if I'm in a movie theater alone. Like some of it's a communal experience, but I just love it overwhelming me.
I like quiet movie theaters sometimes more than packed ones.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. And I'll go alone too. A lot of people are like, well, I want to go to movies because I don't know who's gonna go with me. I'm like, fuck that. I mean, just go.
Honestly, can't go to the movie theater with other people anymore because it's now become like, oh no, I'm going by myself. Like my time.
Yeah. But COVID, so we weren't going to conventions for a while, and now we started going back. But it seems like I've mostly been just doing like local, and by local I mean US conventions. But I don't know, maybe I'll get invited to MCM again, or I mean, I know MCM
connections.
I have a connection, so I'm gonna email them. Like,
okay. I know MCM isn't the only game in town. I know there are other conventions in smaller cities and conventions in Ireland, Scotland, and I mean, it's sort of not to make you drive or fly or take a train, but those places are some among the most beautiful in the world. So.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like I really wish, because I used to be in the UK and then COVID happened and then my health decided to be an asshole, so I had to move back home to Hungary. So now whenever I am in London, it's only for the Comic Cons that I do.
It's only for okay.
So I'm like, I really wanted to go this weekend to Aberdeen because they have a convention there now. But like, nah,
it's tough. You can't. Yeah.
It's a bit too much. It's a tiny bit too much. So I was like, London it is for now. And who knows? Maybe in the future it can be other places.
Exactly.
San Diego is like the main goal. Like,
oh yeah.
I need to see that.
I really would like
and I haven't been to San Diego in a while, not in several years now.
Oh my God, it must be like such a good experience, though.
I mean, it's huge. It has become. I will say, it has become kind of overwhelming.
Okay.
So crowded and so kind of oversaturated, and it's a lot of money and promotional things, and some of that's cool because they're promoting things that I'm genuinely interested in, but it's gotten a bit much. But who knows? Maybe it's maybe COVID was good for it in that respect, and that maybe if I were to go back, it's pared back a little bit, or it's 20 times, because people have been so hungry for that experience. I have found that this year in going back to conventions after several years away.
I think MCM's hit that a couple of times. I've heard a few things about their Saturdays being pretty bonkers,
overcrowded. Yep. It's like just because they made the spaces between the stalls that we are doing, they made it like a lot bigger. So the aisles are like, can take 10 times more people. And usually on Saturdays, like you can't move.
You can't even move. Yeah.
You can't even see to the other stall in front of you. You're just like, oh my God, there are people everywhere. Like
that was San Diego even like pre-COVID. So I mean, I'm sure
I
you've
completely
seen
believe you. Yeah. It can become a bit too much. Alrighty. Another Spider-Man related question. Because I have to. Obviously, eagle-eyed fans and us as well. We pointed out that in Across the Spider-Verse, there's your Spider-Man in there.
I know. And they had already teased our Spider-Man in the last movie. If you go down when they go down into Peter's or Aunt May, at that point, the clubhouse, it's one of the suits in the background, which we immediately clocked and freaked out and started screaming like schoolgirls. And it was and then of course to just hang a bell on it and put both him and Miles in the trailer is huge. And my fingers are crossed that I get a phone call that says, "Hey, we would love for you to, come in and like I do anything." I mean, hopefully they understand. I'm trying not to appear too desperate, but I loved Into the Spider-Verse is one of my favorite movies. Like it is one of those perfect films. I have very few films that I will just sort of blanket call perfect films. A lot of films I love, but there are certain films that are perfect. Brazil is perfect, and The Big Sleep is perfect, and Pulp Fiction is perfect, and Into the Spider-Verse is perfect. Like it's Grosse Pointe Blank is perfect. I mean, there are certain movies that in my eyes that are perfect films that there's absolutely nothing wrong with. John Carpenter's The Thing, like films that I will always go back to, and I think, oh, it's not going to be as good as I remember it, and it gets better each time. And Into the Spider-Verse is one of those movies. So there's still time to call me, guys. I mean, maybe that's all we'll get is just you get to see him walking by or whatever, and he's not talking or anything, which is almost good enough for me. But
come on,
I would love a little more.
Call Yuri. Like, what are you waiting for?
Come on, guys.
Come on, we want to hear him.
But I love feeling that because we were huge fans, when we were doing the game, and we saw that trailer come out, and we're like, holy shit. Like the first time the trailer came out, like we were huge fans, and then to watch the movie and see that obviously they were also fans of what we were doing was big. And then to watch some of the Tom Holland movies and also see little nods here and there that they clearly were also playing the game is kind of cool to be part of in a way the Spider-Verse in life is
exactly like I think Tom pointed it out as well that he took a move from the game. So I was like, I think I called on which one was that, but I am not 100% sure. I think it's at the end where he's fighting Norman.
I think that was
right?
I think we're thinking the same one too. Yeah.
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 I think it was that one, but I was like, okay, now I have to replay the game and realize which one was that. So I did
Oh, well.
Oh, well.
I mean that's the mark of also, you know, a good game, not to heap accolades upon the game. But it's replayability. You know, I'll talk to so many people who are like, yeah, I play it again and again and again, and I platinumed it, you know, however many times, and then they're like, yeah, and then a year went by and I went back and I played it again. I'm like, because it feels good, like because it makes me happy. I'm like, God, you know, that's all I ever wanted. Because I'll be honest, I have loved watching The Last of Us for a great many reasons. But one being that I was never in a headspace or a heart space to go live in the world and play the game. Like I was like, that's the kind of like I love post-apocalypse movies, and I mean it is truly my genre and my sweet space. But I didn't want to live in the world that when you live in a game world and you're playing a game, you're in there and you're making choices and you're living with those characters for a really long time in that place. I didn't want to live there, and so I never played the game, but the show is perfect for me because I'm like, oh, here I get what I want. You know, I can live there for 55 minutes or whatever, and that's what I wanted. So I do love that about the show, among many other things.
The Last of Us is such a strange one for me because I love that the TV show is kind of giving that for so many people, but and I totally get what you mean, but something about The Last of Us I find oddly comforting, especially the first one. I've played the second one once because that one is a very heavy game, but the first one I've played upwards of something like 10 times at this point. I just go back to it and there's something very, very I guess therapeutic or something about it.
But I was wrong, because there was one person worth saving. That's what I did. I saved him. Then I protected him. That's why men like you and me are here. We have a job to do.
I love that. I love that games can bring us that.
Yeah.
You know, I love that entertainment can bring us that. You know, sometimes people are like, oh, that's just for entertainment. I'm like, yeah,
but that's so important.
Yeah, and everybody's experience is going to be different. And I know some people have had, you know, I mean, certain things have helped me out. Like when I played in the beginning of the pandemic was when I finally played Firewatch, and like Firewatch was extremely therapeutic for me.
I played Firewatch the night it came out, but it didn't drop in the UK until about 9 p.m. And I was like, so I started it and I was like, oh, let me play for a couple of hours. I finished it at nearly 3 a.m. Played it all in one go.
And that's really my, you know, people are like, because, you know, embarrassingly, I never even finished Spider-Man. Like I 3% at Spider-Man. It's embarrassing. The types of games that I like are, I mean, now that you mention it, and since we're here for this, are kind of like movies in a way. Like I don't like movies, or I don't like games anymore where I have to learn complex mechanics to fight off things that are trying to kill me every 5 seconds. Like I want a movie, or I want a game that I keep, you know, that's an honest mistake. I want a game that is basically, you know, a slow, interesting walkthrough. Maybe there's some menace. Like Firewatch is a perfect example. Like there's menace, but you know, nothing's gonna kill you.
I wasn't convinced.
Although, yeah,
the whole thing, like,
right, I know. But like, you know, as long as it's a cool environment and a cool story, and I get to interact with cool characters, and there's like some cool music, and you know, maybe some easy puzzles, I'm good. Like, and it lasts maybe like 6 hours tops. Like I don't, you know, I can't Skyrim anything these days. Like I can't spend hundreds of hours and still not get to the end of a thing. I just don't have it.
I think a lot of people agree with you on that. Like I think it's becoming more and more of a trend. Like I love the Dark Pictures anthology series. I just love the choice-based games because
what is it called? Because I'm gonna add it to the Dark Pictures.
Dark Pictures, yeah.
Dark Pictures?
So they have Man of Medan, Little Hope, which is my favorite.
Okay.
And then what was the last one? Shit.
It's made by the people who made Until Dawn and the Quarry.
Until Dawn and the Quarry, yeah.
Okay. I just added a Disco Elysium to my, like I was a huge fan
God,
of,
yes.
Yeah. As I just added that, somebody recommended that to me, and I'm like, oh, that sounds
I was
perfect.
this close to wearing. I have a Disco Elysium shirt with the two main characters on the front of it, and I was this close to wearing it, and then I was like, oh, that one's. Yeah, we'll talk about movies. I won't wear this one today.
I loved Edith Finch. Whatever happened to Edith Finch, or like Edith Finch is like that's like a perfect game for me.
No, Disco Elysium was a magical experience for me playing it because it's like it's not like super short, but it's also not super long. Where I got a good few days out of it, and it was just something really fun about you get to really pull the world apart as you're going through and kind of clicking on things, and there's an interesting sense of menace in that game as well, but not in a way that ever is like too much. And it's just funny as well. It's just spectacular written. I will when you come back, I will have to pick your brains about your
Okay, about that. Yeah, hopefully by then I will have played Disco Elysium and Control, which are both sort of at the top of my list.
Love Control too.
Yeah.
I still have to play Control, but I could get around to it.
I got Control because they had a PlayStation booth at MCM, I think in 2019 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the game had already been out for a few months, and so I was waiting for a friend of mine to arrive. And I just went over and I stood there like playing it for like a good half an hour, and I was like, I'm gonna need to get this done.
Sometimes it happens that way.
As I went to leave, the guy who was running the stall, because my friend called and she said she had arrived, and I put the thing down, and he kind of goes, wait, and he gives me this like tote bag with the Control symbol on it. He goes, "You were just playing for such a long time.
You earned this.
You earned this."
Earn this.
But it's a really fun one. That was a really interesting one because there's no difficulty settings in that game, so you just have to kind of get good.
You just have to let your brain figure it out. Yeah.
And once you get the hang of it, it becomes like because I replayed it recently because I got it for free on Epic, so I played it on my computer. And going through it, having played so many hours beforehand, I'm like, oh, I've just got this now. It's so much easier to go through.
I don't know. We'll see. It'll either frustrate me and I'll give up. Like I even did with it's so embarrassing because I love I don't know if you played Call of the Sea. Call of the Sea. It's by Out of the Blue Games and Raw Fury. And it's great. It's great. I'll leave you with that. That'll be. I'll go play Disco Elysium and you go play Call of the Sea. And
it's first person perspective. Is it like puzzles and stuff? Oh, I love puzzles. Great. This is
I'm really bad at puzzles, but I can.
I'm real obsessed with puzzles.
Well, you could just talk to Katie about it then.
Yeah, that's true.
Katie will tell you all about it.
Right? Okay, good.
I
will quickly backtrack because you said my favorite line, and in almost the same way, earn this from Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah. Well, it came up, and
You had to, but I'm like, that's one of my. You keep mentioning things that are my things as well.
I was looking when you mentioned you were like really big into post-apocalyptic stuff. I did look at Lily.
Yep.
So I was like, that's
me.
Well, did you know
yes.
that I had a podcast for a year where we just talked about Mad Max Fury Road every week for a year. We would watch 4 minutes, and then we would talk about 4 minutes for about 45 minutes. And we one movie we talked about every week for a year, me and my co-host and one of my best friends. And then as the show went on, because at first we would just get together and we'd just end up talking about Fury Road all the time, and which is one of my top favorite movies of all time. It is also a perfect movie. But we realized I think we made a joke. We're like, yeah, all we do is hang out and talk about Fury Road. We should start a podcast. And then we kind of laughed and went, okay. And so we did, but by the end of it, we had started inviting people like fight choreographers and the writer and somebody who did the storyboards and one of the actors and the production designer. And so by the end, we had all these people who were hopping onto the show just because I think we were so crazy. I don't know. It's called You Are Awaited, a Mad Max Fury Road podcast, and you should.
I have to listen. Yeah,
we'll stick it in the description as well.
It's 52 episodes. You can listen to 1 week for a year, or you can binge it. I don't care.
I just wrote awaiting.
I can listen to it while I draw.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Yeah. Easy peasy. I love
just
that.
Don't listen to it while we're doing this podcast right now, because
that would make my brain explode.
Yeah, let's get into movies then. My first very important question is, what is your comfort movie? Like the movie you go back to when you need just piece from everything else.
The Big Sleep by
Oh.
Howard Hawks. Yeah.
Okay.
With Bergman and Bacall. I find the text of it. I mean, I'm a big like film noir buff, but it's just like every line is soothing to me. Like every line of the film, it is written so well. Those lines, I've seen it so many times that those lines, bring me comfort. And it takes me back to I mean, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 20s. I always look back, like I listen to a lot of music from then, and I find it comforting. And I know those were not perfect times, by any means. But it feels somehow, in as portrayed in movies and so on. It is very soothing to me to go back to those times. And I love old Fred Astaire movies, and to when times were gentler and
Times were
kinder,
simpler.
and even though I know the reality was not necessarily the case, there's a lot of problems, but there's something about The Big Sleep that's like a warm hug for me, and I've never really thought about that way. I'm glad you asked the question in that manner, because I do go back to a lot of movies, a lot of my favorite movies, certain movies that I'll watch every year. Like John Carpenter's a thing I'll probably watch yearly, and I just forced my son to watch for my birthday, a couple of weeks ago. For my birthday present to me was convincing my son to watch both Big Trouble in Little China and Buckaroo Banzai in the same weekend, which is a big ask for a 7-year-old.
But he watched it.
But he did, and I think he liked Big Trouble in Little China better than Buckaroo Banzai. But I get that, and watching them back to back, I totally understand why. And he's like, he loves kung fu and monsters and stuff like that, and it was magic.
Fair.
And but it was, I mean, all the movies that I've just sort of listed are comfort movies for me to go back to. But I would say The Big Sleep is probably almost maybe at the top of that list. Yeah.
I've not seen the movie, which you'll hear a lot from me because I love movies, but I also haven't seen a lot of them.
But you can't have seen all the movies. I mean, I don't think anybody should be ashamed for movies that they haven't seen yet. In a lot of ways, I'm like super excited for you then to get to see those for the first time. I'm like, not only do I not hate you for not having ever seen that movie, but I'm kind of jealous that you've never seen that movie, because someday you'll get to experience it and you may not, like it, but I'm still jealous.
I'm so bad at getting around to watching a lot of stuff that's like considered to be, kind of classics or things that people are like, oh, you absolutely should be watching this. Lily yells at me often.
Yes, I do.
But at The Big Sleep, I studied it during my A-levels at school. It was one of the, I have read it, and
you went to a cool school.
I was doing literature, and the unit was crime, or like I think it was crime. It was specifically the unit. And I did an essay comparing The Big Sleep to Gone Girl, which is probably one of my favorite, which is it's been about 8 years or something since I left, but it's still probably one of my favorite things I've ever had to research and get into properly, because I was comparing kind of the concept of the femme fatale to the way that Amy Dunn is kind of represented and all this sort of stuff, and there was a really interesting parallel. So I mean, I should get around to watching it really.
I just saw this new Neil Jordan directed this new Marlowe film that just came out, and is basically it's Neil Jordan's love letter to classic film noir and hard-boiled detective stories, and you could argue that the film is very pat, like in that it's got all the elements from those movies, or you could say it's got all the elements that you love from those movies. What's not to love? Because I was just drinking it in the whole time. I was like, yeah, just give me those shots of the reflection in the puddle of the neon and the the harsh light through the shades on his face in his detective's office. I mean, just like you just inject it right into my veins. Like it was pretty great.
It does sound awesome. My comfort movie is The Shawshank Redemption.
I get it. So what was it like having playing Spider-Man and being like, wait a minute, Mark Ralston, who plays Osborn, is from the Shawshank Redemption. Because I will tell you, as a movie buff, when we were working on that game, when he walked in,
Did you cry?
I was like, I was like, I got super nervous.
Okay.
Even though we were all working on the same thing, I had never
Yeah.
met him before, and he's played a lot. I mean, he's played a lot of like characters that could scare the shit out of you. The
That's
Departed
true.
and Aliens, and
Mm-hmm.
But all I wanted to do was go up and start asking him questions about working on, Shawshank and working on Aliens. But I'm sure, I was like, I gotta be professional. We're all actors here. We're working on this thing. People probably ask him that all the time. I'm just gonna. But after about 2 days, I went up. I was like, hey, Mark, what's the statute of limitations on asking you to tell us stories about working on aliens? Like he's like, oh no, happy to. Like he's so wonderful.
Oh, that's
He's
so good
such a
to hear.
wonderful human being.
Yeah.
But yeah, Shawshank, I completely understand that.
And funnily enough, Aliens is one of my other favorite movies. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a huge Ripley fan. So I'm like,
Yeah, no, I get it. It's my favorite. I mean, I love each and every one of. Well, let's see. That's not entirely true. But of the Alien movies, I mean, there's something
Yes.
classic about that first one.
Oh,
But I think my
yeah.
heart will always be with the second one.
I think
I told you, Katie. I told you. He's my best friend. Just like,
And I keep getting bester and bester as we go.
yes, I can't read this. I'm like, oh, why are you?
Part of how Lily and I became friends and how we started this podcast is during the pandemic. We started doing this thing where we were watching movies every week with a bunch of people online, and Alien and Aliens were both movies that we ended up watching, which I hadn't seen before. So
Yes.
getting to watch those like in that setting was very fun for the first time.
Get away from her, you bitch!
I definitely think I enjoyed Aliens more than Alien. I like Alien, for what it is, but I think there is something more fun about Aliens.
Oh yeah. Well, and they're both sci-fi, but Alien is a horror movie and Aliens is an action movie.
Is an action
Exactly.
And I'm a big genre guy. I mean, I love cinema, and that often leads to very heady conversations about storytelling. And I'm a genre buff. Like I love all different kinds of movies for the most part. But my heart is with action and horror and sci-fi and fantasy. And I mean, that is, for whatever reason, that's always been my, and I'm unabashedly so. Like I'm like, I don't feel, not as smart because I love those movies most, because so many of those movies are so smart,
You're gonna agree when I say that horror is the hardest genre to get right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And horror comedy is even harder than that.
Oh, hell yeah.
The number of people who have gotten horror comedy right are, I can count on my hand. But when you get it right, it's so good.
Well, it's funny because I think probably one of my comfort movies, and probably my favorite movie of all time, is Shaun of the Dead.
Yep.
Very much informed my want to get into filmmaking just in general. But it was like, I've seen that movie so many times and analyzed it in every which way under the sun.
He knows every line.
For every essay I had.
Is that your comfort movie?
I think it would be. Because I have seen it so many times. But it's so funny because when I think of comfort movies, I don't actually think of movies. I am very much television is my bread and butter. It is the thing I go to always. And it was interesting to hear you say The Big Sleep was your comfort movie, because I think when people refer to something as like comfort, we would think of it being something that is like happy or something like that. Right. But for me, on the flip side, kind of in a similar vein, I guess, one of my favorite TV show of all time is The Leftovers,
which by all accounts is one of the most depressing shows ever created.
This is the thing. I find it,
but I've not seen. It's on my list.
I find
it's very depressing.
I find it there's something so beautiful about it. I find it innately comforting to watch. Lily was like, I'm never watching it again. It was very depressing. But
sure.
For me, there's something about in the existentialness of the whole thing that I find almost freeing, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's I've watched at least the first season a good few times, and every time I watch it, I'm like, this is just I think there's also a part of it that is on a slightly nerdy intellectual level. I just love the way it's made. I think it's spectacularly directed, and it has some of my favorite like tiny little direction moments in anything ever. But I love when people's comfort stuff and the stuff that they will watch over and over again is something that's like
it's something either like super bleak or horrifying or
like yes, it is. Leave me alone.
Yeah, I get it. And I mean, I'd watch it just to stare at Justin Theroux. So I mean, I get it.
There's a lot of Justin Theroux to stare at.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I should get to it. It's almost up next. I'm trying to finish out Chernobyl, which is also not particularly comforting.
I have not gotten around to Chernobyl, but I can imagine.
Yeah, it's
so
it's
good.
a tough.
What
it's
time
a tough
do you
one,
think
but,
I have?
But,
I don't know.
I know that 1899, which I hear is just awesome. But if I had to go back to a show, I mean, I just finished Severance and fucking
Severance.
I know people said, "Oh, this is great," and I was like, I got sick and tired of people saying how great it was, but it really is. It's totally my jam. But also I loved Midnight Mass, which came out already now a couple of years ago.
We did a big episode on all Mike Flanagan stuff after Midnight Mass came out.
We love Mike Flanagan.
Yeah. I'm hot and cold on what Mike Flanagan does, but when he hits for me, he hits hard. Like Oculus is one of my favorite.
Oh my God!
Films, I think of all time. It's my favorite of his films.
That was my next question. Like, if it's not The Thing, what is your favorite horror film? I love Oculus.
Oh yeah, no, I it's hard to pick a favorite horror film because they all hit me differently at different times. And if you were asking me my favorite movie, like depending on the day, I'd give you a different answer. Like it's yeah. That's one of those Sophie's Choice questions that is like impossible for me because I love movies so much. But yeah, God, favorite horror movie. The funny thing, people often find this surprising when I get into it. But horror is like one of my favorite genres, and one of my favorite things. But I don't like slasher movies. So like Halloween, Friday the 13th, like all those I find very, very boring. And people are like, but that's horror, and I'm like, it's a facet of horror, and it's a very popular one. And I don't fault the people who love those movies. I have, the one that I get sort of close on is Nightmare on Elm Street because it's more supernatural.
Yeah.
In a way. But like, yeah, I mean, slasher movies for me have just never been as interesting as pretty much anything else in the genre. But I do love it.
Have you seen Freaky? I
still haven't seen Freaky, and I hear it's a great, and I hear Vince Vaughn is awesome in it, and it's just it's cool. It's still been on my list, even though I don't love slasher movies. That has been on my list for a while. Yeah.
I don't like slasher horror. It's not my thing. I mean, same thing. I just find it boring.
Yeah,
it's just not that interesting for me. I'm more into like the monster and supernatural things.
Yeah,
but then Freaky came out. I love the trailer so much because it's more like horror comedy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like, I might as well watch it. And I watched it. Spot on. just casting, story, everything. I had such a good time with it. And I was like, okay. So that's how you do it. All right. Excellent.
Yeah. All right. I'll bump it up on my list. It's been on there for a while.
I think I avoided horror for a long time because I don't like to be like scared, but I also think I got in my head that horror was meant that it was this like one thing. I don't want to go anywhere near anything that is like so psychologically damaging that it's just not fun. We had a big discussion about horror quite early on when we started making this podcast, and I was saying that I think that horror needs to have, when it's done well, a sense of aftercare kind of built in, so that when you leave it, you don't have a feeling of like, oh, I just feel terrible now, right? That kind of thing. So I think the thing I've really gravitated to in recent years is I love ghost stories, and I love everything that ghost stories absolutely represent. Part of the reason why I've gotten on, I think, some more with Mike Flanagan stuff is because he understands the sense that ghost stories are about grief and all that sort of stuff.
Him and Guillermo del Toro know ghost stories.
100%.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro is another one of those guys that, like, on paper, he should be my favorite everything all the time.
True.
And his films always don't always hit for me. But ghost stories, or they'll hit to the very last minute, or this section will hit, and that whatever, this element of it. But I do love him, and one of the most beautiful ghost stories I saw recently was I don't know if you saw he had an anthology horror
We
We
series
did a
on
whole
You
Netflix.
did.
episode on it, yeah.
Cabinet of
Was it The
Curiosities,
Murmuring?
Yep.
The Murmuring, which was beautiful.
I loved it.
Yeah,
Wait, which
Yeah.
one was the murmuring?
The Murmuring was the one with the birds and
with the
Andrew
birds,
Lincoln.
Oh, the birds,
the
yeah.
husband and wife in the
Yeah.
Yes.
house, and she's with the ghosts in the house, and
Yes.
and I love those two actors so much.
Yeah.
It was so good. But that was one of my favorite. I was surprised at how many of those I loved. There were only one or two that didn't hit for me, but like I thought it was great. It was great, the whole series. For me.
Our favorite was the titles are gonna come to me. The alien one.
Yes.
The
autopsy.
The autopsy was
that's one. Yeah.
Stunning.
was like chef's kiss. Yeah.
See,
It
that's the
scared
other
the
side of
shit
it.
out of me, but like,
Yeah.
That's the
That's
other
so
side
good.
of it. I love anything that is like so expressly smart and like people like messing with each other on like an intellectual level. That is always going to be way more interesting than somebody trying to jump scare me constantly and really
Right.
telegraphing
Yeah.
it.
Jump scares for me, fun every now and then, but I don't tune in for jump scares, and maybe that's why slasher is not my thing. But I was like UK, like when I was younger, and I'd go to sleepovers, and they'd want to watch Halloween or whatever. Like I was the kid with my Walkman on in the other room, like because I didn't even want to hear it. Like
Right.
I was so scared of so much of that stuff, and
mm.
I don't know why it has become such a driving force in my life. I don't know.
Because it's good.
But yeah, because I love it.
Because it rules.
And
Next question.
Right, exactly, because it rules. Next question. And I love, one of the people that I love most in this industry. I met him once, but not that he'd remember. Elijah Wood, his like
You
what a
met
cool,
Elijah?
what a cool dude. He was super
I'm so
nice.
angry.
Um,
I'm so angry.
but I love that he's like, he got to a point in his career and he's like, oh, I just want to make, independent horror movies with my friends. Like that's all I kind of wanted. Like I'm at that stage in my life. All I want to do is I just want to make independent horror movies with my friends.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. I love getting together with a group of people and being a part of something like that. And all being, focused on this one fun thing that we love so much and that not everybody's going to understand or like, and
which one was it? The Phoenix incident?
Oh yeah.
I haven't got my copy of this downstairs.
That must have been funny for you guys to go, wait a minute, those are all the guys from
I bought it very specifically for that reason.
Oh my god. Well, but that was super fun. Whatever people think of the movie, we got to go hang out in the desert
Exactly.
and and pretend like we're running from aliens for 10 days or whatever at night. Like we just stayed up all night and made this movie, and sure, it was cold and weird and but then I'll always remember we would shoot nights and then we'd get back to the hotel at like 6 a.m. and that was the end of the day for us. So at like 6:30, 7 a.m. we were all partying by the pool and like drinking by the pool, and like the rest of the people at the hotel would sort of, business people and so on, I could see them get into the lobby in their suits and everything, and they'd look out and it's like 6:30 a.m. and we're partying by the pool, and they just could not figure out what was going on. But also they couldn't complain about it because we were the production at the hotel. Like we had rented out most of the rooms, I think, at the hotel. So the rest of the hotel was, the hotel manager was like, I'll tell you.
They're giving us loads of money.
Yeah.
It was super fun. It was super fun making.
I bet it was.
I stand by, because a lot of people were like, when I heard people talking about it, they were like, oh, it's terrible. It's not bad. It's a lot of fun. I think the moment you get to like the periods of the film where it's just you guys like running around and like being scared of the aliens and stuff.
Yeah.
So enjoyable. I had a great time watching it.
Same.
And it's does it does it is it telling any new stories that we've never seen before in a way that we've never seen it? No, but there's sort of a comfort in that too. Mm-hmm. Is it great? No, it's not great. But was it fun to make? Yeah. Will I stand by it? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
I think that's one of the most important things.
Happy.
Yeah, exactly. I loved it. I was like, it was fun. I had a good time watching it. So I'm like, sometimes, because I just said this to Katie, I had the most horrible case of fatigue of movies for like 2 months. And I literally, because I always wrote down what I've been watching. And I usually, by this point, like by the time we are in March, I have like 2 pages full. I have one now because
Really?
I couldn't get into movies or TV shows or anything, even if I was interested in them. So I was not in the cinema for like a month because I was like, I don't know. It was horrible. I
Yeah,
hated it.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I mean, now that we're best friends, I should send you a list of movies that I mean,
Yes.
after based on this conversation, you've probably already seen a lot of them, but I bet you haven't seen all of them. And you might not like, you might like some of them, but I'll send you a list.
Yes, please. I need
Um,
them.
and I will say, I mean, thinking of the Phoenix incident, I mean, one of the things that I really loved and respected so much about the Last of Us show is their Neil and Craig's both their trust in the actors who came before, who played the characters in the game, who that we fell in love with, and why it eventually, I'm sure, became a TV show, in part. I mean, obviously, the writing and the craft was all there. But their commitment to honoring those actors in some way. Like most adaptations will be like, oh, well, those were game, people. We don't want them involved. Bringing them into the story in the way that they did, and honoring them as actors, and not relegating them to, oh, well, they're just video game actors, was so beautiful and touching. As touching as the show is, like, I was touched by every time I would see somebody that I know from my life getting to be a part of that was just so wonderful.
I mean,
like
Ashley
the
Johnson
first time,
won 2 BAFTAs for
Yeah.
Ellie. So
Yeah.
well, and it's funny because when I started watching the movie, I'm like, it's so cool that they would cast an Ellie that actually looks like Ashley Johnson as opposed to,
Exactly.
Elliot Page, and then seeing Jeff, and then seeing Troy, and then seeing Ashley, and sort of seeing Laura, but not really.
Not really.
That picture on
Yeah.
that she put on social media is so funny.
It's
Every
so
time
funny.
I look at it,
I have to look.
Up.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to go back and.
Oh, check. Neil reposted it. You should check it out.
Okay.
It's really funny.
I'll go buy it.
So funny.
I love it. But it's just I love it, and since I just finished it, I'll have to. I mean, maybe I'll make a post about that too, because it really warmed my heart in a very special way, because a lot of I've said it before, but still, a lot of times it I'll get a comment like, hey, you're in video games, and I love the stuff you do, and you're so great, or whatever it is, and they're like, have you ever done any real acting? And I'm like,
God.
like,
What?
I know what you mean, but I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But it still feels like a knife in my heart every
Yeah.
time, and so to see Neil and Craig, trust actors to be actors, and not just this kind of actor or that kind of actor, was one of my greatest takeaways from that, as many as there are, and as as great as the show is. For me personally, I'm like, fuck yeah,
Yeah, exactly. We are friends with Jeffrey Pierce.
Yeah.
So
Jeffrey's come to chat with us a couple of times, which is
that's right. Yeah, it's funny. Well, we're not super close. I knew him when he was a kid. Him and my sister were really good friends.
What? That's
when they were
what?
kids. Yeah, and I know his brother too. His brother's a photographer, and anyway, so yeah, but since we both came to Hollywood, we interact on social media.
Yeah.
And I think we've worked on the same game, but we never like worked together.
Yeah.
But I have not met Jeff once since we've been in Hollywood. Which is great, which is crazy to me. And now he doesn't, I don't think he even lives local anymore, but yeah, we got to find out a time. Like, we've never we've never had the conversation. Hey, do you remember my sister? I remember seeing Jeff in like an after school special, this crazy I forget if it was an anti-drug thing or an anti-violence thing, but like when he was just a kid, my sister like got this videotape. She's like, oh, you guys, my friend, Jeff, he's in this, he's so cool, he's like an actor. It was like when we were like, before I was ever into it or anything. Like, it was it's cool, and it's cool to see him have found all this, and he's a writer now, and like, I mean, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just really cool to track somebody from one place, to another place,
Yeah.
and yet we've never really gotten to hang out. So
You got to do it.
That's
we got to
bonkers.
do it.
You got to do
Well-
it. He's
well, maybe-
such a nice guy.
Well, maybe because I got to wrap this up in a minute. Just as much as I'd love to, like, I could talk all day.
Okay.
But I have a family, and it's the weekend, and
Understandable.
That's fair, yeah.
But what we should do, I don't know if you ever do this, but
Yes.
Jeff, or as he's known now, Jeffrey, and would you have us both on at the same time?
Oh my god! If we can
Yes.
make that happen, I would
Okay,
absolutely
okay.
love that.
Okay.
We have to start a group email about that. Hell yeah.
Okay. Great.
That's
I
such a
would-
good idea.
I would love that.
Before we wrap up, I have a very important question.
Yes.
Oh gosh.
I'm so excited.
I'm so nervous now.
Okay. What does the clock do when it's still hungry? It goes back 4 seconds.
Yeah, there it is.
That's That's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She loves doing this to me.
I'm a dad now, and dad jokes are kind of my thing. Although I would argue that I've always told dad jokes. I'm just now allowed to.
Yeah.
I finally get my card
You
that says
cannot
you're
do
allowed
it.
to tell jokes like that.
And I'm just doing it because I love them.
I
Kids always freaks out, but they are so good.
they're so good.
No, they are so good.
All the police.
Okay, I had to ask that question. It was very important
So-
for my mental
so-
health.
So I would love for this just to be like part one of this conversation.
Hell
I
yeah.
would love that. I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah. We have to come back for seconds.
sake.
Look at the callback. That was
See,
that was
that I
a good
appreciated
callback,
more,
yeah.
to be honest.
But seconds
Thank
and
you.
thirds and fourths
Yes,
and fifths.
yes,
and,
yes, exactly. And we're gonna talk and try to pull Jeffrey in to
Yeah.
do like
Yeah.
a big
Oh
one.
my god, yes.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's such a good idea.
I would love
Yuri,
that, yeah.
thank you so much for coming.
Oh,
This was
oh,
so much
really?
fun.
Katie, thank you. This is
Literally.
like I said at the top. I forget if that was part of the show. You could release our conversation about Chris's as like a bonus. Or you could just put it on there.
We can quickly say that Chris
talking about
Evans is
movies
great.
is my favorite. Talking about movies is my favorite thing.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So,
We have to do it more. We have to discuss so many things. We just scratch the
Yeah.
surface.
Mm.
Muy deep.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
okay, good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And until we see you all next time,
Mhm.
have fun. Watch movies.
Bye, everybody. Watch movies.
Watch movies. That's a good way
That's
to
it.
end things.